does this work? Oh, nice. That's the title I wanted. Okay, is it working now? It is. Test, test. Test, test. Cool. Okay. I think it's working. Yo, how's it going, Hadari? Start doing stuff in just a second. I haven't used this restream thing before, so I'm trying to make sure that it's working correctly. Appreciate it, Sled. What's up, Ketchup? Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, I think it's working. So the plan today is redoing all of the code for all of the doors. And this will be like the start of redoing a bunch of the core systems to introduce replication to them and to just make them better too, because I just wrote them in ways that weren't the best. So yeah, let's start doing that. Of course I remember you, bro. It's good. I still remember when we designed this UI. It's changed a bit, but yeah, you were the one that helped me make this. Yeah, inside a TV. I remember that. Yeah, the idea has evolved quite a bit for it. I actually have some UI from another project that I was working on where I was basically just doing the same thing, making a bunch of 3D UI that I want to try to move some of the code over for, because I think I have some really cool ideas in that would fit well in this game. Not necessarily minimalistic. I kind of like the retro stylish look, but I'm not like fully committed to it. More so just like in-world UI is the biggest thing. Hey, how's it going, Batty Bat? I need to figure out how to put the restream chat on my phone. That's how I'm reading chat right now. I just have it on Twitch. Yeah. The idea is to have no UI. The only thing that like I've kind of made a compromise with is you probably need a crosshair. So that's like really the only piece of UI is just the crosshair there. I haven't figured out a good way yet to make that something different. I might make it a physical object though. I've messed with that before. Trying to think about how I want to do this. The way that the doors are currently in the game, I want them to still be the same, where you kind of like move your mouse to open them. The issue before was that the scaling with the mouse was not tied to your sensitivity. And then also it was just done in a really stupid way, the way that like I would basically start ticking the actor and then stop ticking it. It wasn't efficient. I also want to make it more modular so that like the settings for doors can be stored inside of data assets. And that way it's easier to change them in the editor and at runtime. Helmet or glasses? Yeah, that could be cool. That's actually not a bad idea. If I just like made UI and basically put it in the world in front of the player, that way it would just parallax, so you could tell it's a 3D object. Could look kind of cool. I cannot type. What's up, Luigi? It's been good. Yeah, one of the ideas that I've been thinking about with a lot of that stuff, like in terms of interacting with the oh wait, you're talking about from the player, hearable breathing and hearable heartbeat. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, one of my favorite parts of Dead Space is the fact that like your health bar is on the back of the character. I think that's so cool. That game was like so ahead of its time with the UI. Trying to think about how I want to do this. Because what I want to do is have like a parent class for every type of door. So you obviously have doors that are on hinges, so like a hinge door. And then you would also have like sliding doors. And you'd also have like carousel doors. So I'm trying to think about how I want to classify them. I think the way I want to do it is through an enumeration. So let me do this. Oh, now you can hear? What's up, bro? Time to see if I remember the... I think that's how you declare the enums. Right? I don't know why, I always forget how to declare enums. Okay, that's the macro. Not too much, Luigi. So the first goal with making this new door system is just going to be getting it functioning. And then I'm probably going to focus on replication after. Because I'm still not entirely sure how I want to do all of it. I'm going to work out a bit of it as I go. Let me see how I did it before. The other thing I want to fix that was an issue with the previous type of door was basically when you're moving your mouse to open the door and it's playing like the creaking sound of the door opening, the way that I was doing that was really stupid. And I want to make that better. Let me see if I can find... Like this one creaks, right? Oh, it doesn't even creak. Yeah, I basically want doors to behave the same way though, but be a bit more intuitive. and also tied to your sensitivity. And then all of this data should be moved to a data asset. It also should not have a reference to the player. I don't know what I was doing there. Oh shit. What's up, Garrett? Hold on, let me try to pull up the restream chat on my phone so I can see everybody's messages. When you're running, if you hit a door, will you be able to open it? That's honestly a behavior I didn't think about, but that would be really cool. One thing that I was thinking about that I want to make better as well is I want to have like an actual locking system. Like I want the door to have a state basically where either the handle is... It also depends on the type of door. Like for push doors, it won't be able to be locked, obviously. For doors that you just like swing open like a saloon door. But then doors that have handles should actually have like a locked state to them, which the current ones don't have. Basically what happens is like when you interact with the door, the simulation starts, and then when you let go of it, the simulation stops. That's like how it works right now. And I want to change that so that it actually has like a state to it. And that would allow for cool interactions like that too. That's a good idea though. What was I doing? Data asset. I also need to create a log category for this. I forgot about that. Just use temp for now. So the other things that the door needs, the max rotation for when it's open, and then the rotation for when it's closed. And it will also need that as instance data, so I can put that in here. I don't keep track of them. Like, I will occasionally watch them, though. They're all pretty cool. I haven't really stayed up to date, though. I'm not sure if I've missed any. But yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, that should be pretty cool to have like a full movie out. I'm actually starting to wonder if I want this all to be in one data asset for these different types of doors. It doesn't really make sense if you have like a sliding door to store the max rotation, because this would be relative to hinge doors only. Trying to think about what would actually be important for all door classes to have for inheritance purposes. So what I'm working on right now is basically a rework of the current door system. The reason being that the way that doors work in the game right now is kind of buggy, and it's not optimal. The general idea works, like you can open and close the door with your mouse, but it's not tied to sensitivity. You can see that it's moving your camera. Part of that is the camera system I have right now. That also needs to be changed. That's probably what I'm going to work on next. And then the other issue is right now I can only make hinge doors with the system that I have. If door opens on Y or X. So that shouldn't matter too much, just because both of those would still act as a hinge door. What I'm thinking about more is like a door that opens like this versus like a sci-fi mechanical sliding door versus like a carousel door that you would see when you walk like into a mall or into an airport. The way that those behave are all different, even though that carousel door is kind of the same as a hinge door, but it doesn't have a rotational lock to it like a hinge door does in this state. So I'm kind of thinking how I want to create the classes for those and whether I should use inheritance or not, or just use data assets. I think what I'm going to do is try inheriting. I think that makes the most sense. And just have overrides in the parent class. So what I'll probably want to do here is, let's rename this. Put an S at the end. And we'll change this to a hinged door. And that would sort of invalidate this, the need for this enum. But what we will do is we will make a struct for all of that data so that it's easier to pass around. So good at typing. So what do I have in the old system that I store as data? Let me use that as like a cheat sheet. See what I want to keep. I will need the open and close sound. I think this value is redundant. I shouldn't have an open positive value. I should just have a, like the rotation max can just either be negative or positive, and I just interpolate between them. I like the idea of a friction value. And friction should probably be something that every door type has. So I forget how Unreal does friction, like what they use as the actual unit. I forget if it's arbitrary or if it's... Value of 1 gives the true drag equation. I think I'll just have this value be arbitrary for now. And I can make it realistic later. So we'll just set it by default to like 1. Yo, what's up, Gus? Sorry, I just saw that message now. I wish I could like pin this to my screen without you guys seeing it. I only have one monitor though. I need to get a second one. Actually, I can't use that interface, can I? Because I'm in a plugin right now. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know why. I've just like never gotten a second monitor. I've always just been a one monitor person for some reason. Maybe I'll do something hacky for now to make this work instead of using an interface. And the reason I'm putting internal at the end of these functions is because I'm kind of just prepping it for when I do the replication. But I'm not replicating it yet. Yeah, I should honestly just get like a $40, $50 monitor. That's just like 60 hertz just for having on the side. So now what I want from this... So this will probably be where I actually store the data asset. And then how do I want to run the validation? I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about that yet. Let's just do it like this for now. So the way I'm doing this, by the way, I'm making this class inside of a plugin right now. And the reason that I'm doing that is to kind of force myself to keep it modular and not interact with other systems that it shouldn't be interacting with. So by doing all of this stuff inside of a plugin and then basically inheriting from this inside of the actual game itself, I can keep myself from accidentally like going into the code here for like the base class and using something from my project that basically becomes a dependency. So I can kind of limit my dependencies by doing this without really trying, because it just won't compile. If I try to like use some sort of class from inside of my game, it's gonna require the game as a dependency for the plugin. So it's an easy way to catch myself if I'm doing something I shouldn't do. It's a cool little tip that I learned a while ago. And for some systems, you don't want to do it that way because sometimes they should just be ingrained with other things inside of the game. But for something like this, I want it to be basically as modular as possible. All right, so let's inherit to this now. And we'll call this a hinged door. I can't tell if this is Ryder lying to me or if it is actually having an issue right now. So that should be in the build. Let me try building it. I've been having a lot of issues with Ryder lately, ever since like Unreal 5.5. I haven't tried like fully reinstalling it, so I don't know if it's on my end, like if it's something I've done or if it's one of the updates that caused it. What's going on? Visible defaults. Oh, what am I doing? I want to do visible anywhere and then blueprint rewrite. Yeah, see, it was just Ryder lying to me. Like, for whatever reason, if I don't build the project, it just won't update. Uh, and it'll basically think that I don't have this dependency listed in my game, and it will just make everything red from that plugin. It's really annoying. Yeah, for the longest time, I was on a version of Ryder that was from like 2022. It was like 2022.4, and I just never updated it because it worked fine, and I didn't want to update it and like have it go wrong. And of course, as soon as I update it, I start getting a bunch of issues. Okay, what we're gonna do to keep stuff organized, I need to clean up this whole directory too. I honestly haven't touched like the main project for this game very much in the past couple of months. I've been doing everything like in external projects for like prototyping and stuff, but this project really needs to be cleaned up. For now, I'm just gonna do this here. Well, let's do it this way, actually. Okay, so now I need to override here the activate door functions. So something that I need to think about is if I want the player to be able to move while they're interacting with the door, and if that should influence it. So the way that it currently works, to kind of explain what I mean, if the project, okay, there we go. Right now, with the doors that are currently implemented, if you move around, it doesn't influence the door. And once you exceed a certain range, I believe, well, technically, once you exceed a certain, I might have been messing with it, and that's why it doesn't work anymore. But do that same thing with the new one. I also saw this interesting thing where the way that Valve did their doors in Half-Life Alyx is basically when you interact with a door, it assigns a second hinge to the door that's attached to the handle, and that's sort of how the door moves around, is off of that hinge, and it basically just acts like a physics body. So I might try to emulate that effect. I'm just trying to think about how I want to do it, because it's a little bit different when you're not in VR. Like, the other thing I've been thinking about is whether I want, when you're opening the door like this or moving the door like this, right now it locks your mouse. The movement that you see is just from the camera system, like the little bit of movement there, but I know that the way it works in Amnesia is your mouse is still moving when you're interacting with doors, so I might try to do that. This is a moment. Because what I could do with the mouse is basically get the position of where the mouse would be. So like in this case, it'd be on the floor here. Ignore the z-axis so that height isn't an issue, and basically find the distance between where the mouse is and then where the door is. And the greater that distance, the stronger the pull. So like if you try to open a door fast and you like move your mouse all the way over here, it would be a lot of pull force. Whereas if you just move your mouse a little bit, because the distance is smaller, it'd be less pull force. I don't know if that would work though. I don't know if I should actually use 3D world coordinates or if it should be one-dimensional. I actually think it should be 1D. My music stopped. That's fine. And also, how do I want to accept that input? So what should I be, because I don't want this, well, do I? Do I want to enable input on the door? Let me try scripting it in blueprints first. Would this even work? Why is that not printing? Huh. Alright, we'll do this. Probably just because it's being set in C++, so. Yeah. So right now it doesn't accept X input. And then it does once I enable input. On a button press. I don't know. I want there to be like, I want it to be super physicalized. So that basically you can control like every bit of the door. I think what I do is enable input. And how does this function work? How would I do that in C++ actually? I don't even know. What does Google AI have to say? Okay, I have to do it through the player controller. That makes sense. So for now, we'll do it like this. Sounds good, man. See you later. Thanks for hanging out. Did I miss a YouTube chat? I did not. So this gets the 2D location. I want to just bind the input so I can actually get like the mouse scale between frames. Do I use AI? I never really use it to write out code for me because I still don't think it's good for that. At least not for this type of code. The one thing I did use for it to write code for me actually was a website. It's really good at like doing HTML and CSS and stuff. But as soon as you're doing like anything intricate, like most game stuff, I find it doesn't work too great. What I will use it for though, sometimes, is to explain certain things to me if I don't know what they are, like certain functions or classes. It's really good at like aggregating data about documentation, basically, for code. So like if there's some sort of class that I'm trying to use in Unreal that I've never used before, if I like ask ChatGPT, usually most of the stuff that it says will be relatively accurate towards what it does and how it can be used. So it is helpful for that. But I still kind of skip it when it comes to like straight up just writing code for me. I will occasionally use it for like a few lines or something. It kind of makes me feel stupid though when I use it. So I try to not use it when I can. Let's just do this. I mean, yeah, it can't steal individual lines, but it certainly could steal like some sort of proprietary system. Because that just comes to the argument of like, when do you consider something to be proprietary and owned by somebody, right? Like, is it an arbitrary number of lines of code or like arbitrary number of operations within a piece of software that makes it all of a sudden like proprietary and you'd be stealing it if you copied it? You kind of get into that argument. This stream is really quiet. Let's do this one. So what I'll do now is inside of the tick function, I will just get the mouse position. I'm doing this in a really hacky way right now just to work out the logic of it. I'll clean this up later. Oh, this gives you the mouse delta. Okay, cool. I do not understand why it needs two floats to be passed to it, and it doesn't just return an F vector, but that's all right. So, what do I want to do with the mouse delta is the question. What I probably want to do is add it to some sort of strength value, which would be instance relative. So if I do like call it like pull strength. Actually, no, this makes the most sense. This is right. So I want to do that, and I'm not going to scale it by sensitivity yet, but this would be the line. Let me put it there. That's where I would be scaling the sensitivity, is on this line. So that should work on its own. And let me just recompile this. I don't know if anybody else in here uses Rider ever, or like codes in C++ for Unreal, but have any of you ever successfully used live coding and not have like ridiculous errors with it? Because I basically just never use live coding because I've always had issues with it. What's wrong here? Oh. Okay, so now I can go to this. get the pull strength, and print this value. And this should basically just and then if I go the other way, it goes back. So now what it needs to do is have an interpolation to it that brings it back down to 0. And that would be where I implement friction. So what is the most realistic interp function for friction? I'll just use a constant interp for now. Oh, friction is in the data asset, huh? Data asset. I didn't clean this up yet. So it's a little ugly for now, but that's fine. So this will be what pull strength equals. So now it gets incremented by the mouse delta scaled by delta time, so it's consistent regardless of frame rate. And then it interps constantly back to 0. So basically if you like start interacting with a door and jerk your mouse really fast to the right, you would get a lot of pull strength versus if you started interacting with the door and slowly moved your mouse to the right, you'd get way less. So it gets scaled by like your actual force that you're inputting with your mouse, in theory. Let me do this really quick. Why did it not let me? There we go. Okay, so it's working. The friction is way too high. Let's set it to 1. So you can see now, like, so I'll move my mouse slowly here. What the lag? Slowly here. You'll see that the value isn't really going up by much. But if I jerk my mouse, it goes up really high and then it comes back down. So basically, the strength by which you move your mouse influences how hard you're actually pulling at the door, and it works negative as well. And as that value approaches 0, you can sort of think of this as like the amount of movement that the door is going to do each frame. So once it gets to 0, the door stops moving. So this value kind of acts like friction. Let's set it to something a bit more realistic. The other thing I might need to mess with is there might need to be some sort of threshold value applying friction, or have some sort of scale to it, just because like I'm moving my mouse right now and it's not incrementing because it's not moving fast enough to counteract the interpolation. I guess the other way I could fix that though is just putting... Actually, I could just flip these lines and that would fix it. So now we'll just apply the friction the next frame. So let's make this actually influence the door's rotation now. So we get some sort of feedback. Rotator's yaw pitch roll. So I want to be influencing... Or is it pitch yaw roll? I forget. I always forget the dumbest stuff. Yeah, pitch yaw roll. Okay. So it will be this plus... that. So another value I want to put into the door here is the actual weight of the door, because I can implement that as well. And we'll do this in kg. For now it'll just be arbitrary, but then it will become kilograms in the future. I can scale this here, the pull strength, by the actual weight of the door. So we have the current rotation, and then we have the new rotation. And then we'll do this. And we clamp this between those two values, and then set actor rotation, new rotation. Perfect. Look at that. It's like a real door. I probably shouldn't be using yaw, I guess. Or wait, I know what I'm doing wrong. Pitch, yaw, roll. Hold on. Let me do something stupid. Roll is going to make it go like that. And Z is yaw. Correct value. Why is that not working? Oh. That's why. Oh, nice, Garrett. Sorry, I saw that super late. Click Team Fusion. I haven't heard of that one. I've heard of Game Maker. And Unity, obviously. Okay, now it's working. I just realized weight is actually, the more it weighs, is going to make it easier to open. So I'm going to have to invert that value, but... So now you can slowly open the door, or you can quickly open it. Let's try to get some more realistic values here. Something I might also do is actually, let me get the camera manager. I'm gonna get rid of the camera effects because I'm gonna rework them anyways. And I also have like something stupid here, right? Yeah, like a fucking spring arm. Why am I doing that? And it's in C++. Okay, let me fix that. What does this inherit from player character? Yeah, I don't like the way that I did the camera stuff the last time I worked on it. I have like a whole new system that I wrote. That's just, it's made so much better than what's in this current project. So I'm probably going to move over to that as soon as I'm done with the door stuff. Okay, let's fix this now. The camera needs to be up here. Okay. Broke interaction somehow. Oh, I know that's not working. So you can see here, like, I'm just flicking my mouse, and you can sort of see how the door, like, decays. And if I move my mouse slowly, I can move the door slowly, and then as soon as I stop, it'll stop. And then if I flick it again, you'll actually see the door, like, drag. And what's cool is, because this is inside of a data asset, I could have like two different types of hinge doors. Let's say that one opens 180 degrees, the other opens 90 for whatever reason. I could set this one to 180, so if I want two door interactions, I can just move this one over and then just change the data asset. So now this one will open 180, just like that. There's definitely not a bug. And then this one will open like that. Why is that happening though? Interesting. Lighting looks better. Opening door with scroll wheel. That's an interesting idea. I never really thought about that. I think I do want the mouse to move as well. When you're opening a door. Because and you're like trying to escape something or interact with a door and make it where you can't move your mouse. See if I can figure out what was wrong with the 180-degree door. Is it just because I'm probably exceeding the rotation? That's probably what it is. Like if I rotate this door like that. Yeah, it does. So that's what it is. I'm also curious, what's causing my mouse to stop moving when I do that? Actually, not sure what code is doing that. It must be inside of here. I want to see how this feels with without it locking my mouse in place. It doesn't feel as intuitive with your mouse. Unless... Because right now it's only sampling the x-axis for mouse movement. I could have it sample y as well. How would that feel? I just realized I don't have like any notifications on as well. I hope no one has like done anything and I just haven't said anything like a follow or whatever. Oh yeah, see, people have. Whoops. Well, if you're still here, thank you for the follows. That actually feels pretty good. And this, where like it... Oh, this door is messed up now too. And you can kind of like creep the door open still, I think. You know what? This should be mapped to a float curve though. Because, like, moving my mouse like this, the door is barely fucking moving. And then when I flick it, it moves way more. I think I should have a float curve that I map it to for scaling. Let me put a doorway in here too. Door's a little big. What is this one scaled to? Just copy the scale from that. Choosing complex collision is simple, so why is this door not? What the fuck? What happens? Oh, I'm so dumb. I need to the UI. There's a bug right now, and the reason I have to keep pulling up the tablet is because when I spawn in, the tablet is just hidden and it's blocking my interaction. It's just a bug I haven't fixed. It's keeps confusing me. Okay, so that works. The other thing I kind of want to do, I have to think about how movement should influence this pull strength as well, because I think it should. I'll be right back. That's what I'm gonna approach next. Okay. Maybe make it interact with the character. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It should change on the character's position as well. So maybe I should expand upon this player input system that I have and put it inside of the master class of the door, because other types of doors are going to need this as well. The other thing that I'm thinking about more and more is maybe I should use a physics constraint instead. The thing I'm not sure about, because otherwise I might just start reinventing the wheel as I start adding features to this, where like if you're walking into the door, it moves the door. Like it should just be a physics object at that point. So the only thing I don't know is if this is actually replicated. Actually, that doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be replicated. What I'll do instead is I'll just have the rotation of the door be replicated and have it update like every 10th of a second or something, and then on clients I just interpolate between the updates. And I can just assign ownership to the door on whoever is interacting with it. Yeah, that makes the most sense. I should just do it with a physics constraint. Okay. Just thinking for a minute. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about now, Helix. So, basically, to explain what I have right now, so that it makes a bit more sense what I'm talking about with like the physics constraint, is when I interact with the door, it starts like an update every frame, and the player's mouse input influences the rotation of the door. But as soon as you let go of the door, that stops. What the physics constraint would do is basically treat this like a real physics object, and I would put a hinge at the bottom of the door, and that way, like with this current system, if I walk into the door, it doesn't do anything. But if it was an actual physics object, and I activate it when the player hits the door, then that would actually make the door move. So it probably makes more sense for me to just, instead of programming that behavior on this system that I'm making now, just use the pre-existing system inside of the engine. I'm not sure why I didn't think of that in the first place. Probably because I'm stupid. But I think that's what I should be doing instead. So let's do that real quick. What is this component actually called? Oh, it's an aphysics constraint, isn't it? Not U. Wait, what? Physics constraint component. So I have to include physics core maybe is what has that type. What does this include require, man? Does that work? Okay, let's put it. Wait, this is the right file. God, I'm stupid. So why was it? Oh, now it works. So it's just an engine. Okay. So we'll call this constraint. And then we do well, let me do that. Let's find out real time. By the way, if it seems like I'm spending a lot of time on creating the system for doors in this game, I kind of am, but it's because, like, when you think about games and how frequently you're, like, running into doors and interacting with them, if the system for them is bad, then it can ruin, like, the whole game. So that's kind of why I'm spending so much time on them, even though they seem, like, small and inconsequential. It's one of those things where you only notice it when it's bad. So that's kind of why I'm spending so much time on it, is because I want them to be good. So that you kind of just never even consider the fact that the doors work the way that they do. It's just something you don't even think about. It's just like intuitive. Physics component is considered an engine. No, it's just the information for the physics component is stored inside of a module that's just the engine module. It's basically just a directory. So, let me see if I remember how to use these. Technically, the door, if I enable physics, should do some funny stuff. If I don't change any values. So let me put this one up, hit play. So it's falling. Wait, hold on. Okay. I haven't used these in a while. Let me look up really quick how to set these up. It's been a minute, so it's probably quicker to just look. There we go. So now does it do it? No, it still doesn't. I need to simulate physics on this. There we go. So you can see basically the physics constraint or a pivot for the mesh, and the mesh is influenced by physics, and like if I push it, the door is going to move. So now what I need to do is basically assign like certain locks to the rotation so that the door isn't flopping around like this and it moves like an actual door. So thankfully it's pretty easy, if I remember correctly, to do this. So locked. Lock that. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit more like what I'm looking for. Never seen coding in real time? Wait, does it go this way? What am I... This should be 45, yeah. And then this should be offset by 45. So it doesn't open that way, but now it opens that way. Yep. Like, go to this one. Is it just stuck in the... Open. What the... I wonder if I can influence, there must be a way to set it so that only pawns can influence the actual physics of it, right? That jitter isn't great either, I don't like that. And technically, okay, this system doesn't work anymore, that's fine though. What I can do instead is use, I can add the mouse input as a force to the physics constraint instead of doing what I was doing before where I was influencing the rotation of the actor. How much does a door weigh? Definitely not 100 kg. It does feel better though at that weight. You know what I can do to fix this actually? Go to the collision of this. No. Ignore everything but pawn. There we go. Now I can just scale this to its normal size again. Now it won't be influenced by the collision of the wall. Nice. So, next step is going to be, you'll notice with this, it acts like technically the door should bounce back like that if you slam it open, but if you slam it closed, it should close the lock and the door shouldn't be bouncing back out. So that's one of the next things I have to add after fixing the mouse input. How's it going, Jackson? Average wooden door is 40 to 50 pounds. Yeah, that sounds more accurate. So the one thing I'll have to think about here for adding force to the door, I'll have to convert the mouse movement to, so how do I want to do that? So if I base it off the the player's vector, so the forward vector here would be perpendicular to the door. So positive y on the mouse would be a world vector of, what is this? Positive y on the mouse in that instance would be a world vector of negative y, but a local vector of positive. So I just convert the local to a world vector, so I could do this. So get the forward vector of that. And that's player vector. So the locked door position, once it's reset, requires another mouse interaction. No, it shouldn't. So it should be once it reaches that rotation, it automatically does it. Because think of it like a real door. Like if you slam a real door closed, the door is gonna close itself, you know? The person closing it doesn't have to do anything other than push the door. So I want it to respond like a real door. The one thing that will require an interaction is when you go to open the door, that should basically unlock it so that you can move it. And then if you move it out of that initial rotation, then like a normal door, it will swing back and forth. So X is going to be mouse X. Just do this for now. Why do I not remember how to do this? Returns a vector rotated by... Okay, yeah. That's what I wanted. So that's the actual force vector. And then I apply that. So we'll do that for now. Okay, let's see if that works. I should apply... Oh, there is. Okay, there's a scalar to this. Cool. Bro, I feel like Twitch does so many ads. Every time I'm looking at my phone to see the chat, it's like on 3 of 5 ads. Let's do this. Just so I can see this value in the editor, because I'm not sure otherwise how to debug it. I should have done that initially. Horse vector equals rotate, yeah, okay. And then let's do this. Draw a debug line. I should have done this before compiling too. Start will be that, and then end. Will be this plus You know what's funny is there actually is a there's like the remnants of a sanity system from when I initially started making this. I had a sanity system, and I ended up it because it wasn't written very well. But I do want that to be in the game. Something I've floated in my mind too, because it's like a hardcore game. I almost want to have like a fear system in the game that you don't have control over. Kind of like in real life. How like you don't really have control over what you do when you're scared. I almost want that to be a thing. Like you can't influence some of your character's decisions if they're scared. But I don't know if it'd be fun or not. I have to think more about like how I want to do it. Okay, this should blow me. Oh, I'm the doors location. What am I thinking? Yeah, I think a sanity mechanic could be really cool though. Like, I don't know, the one idea I was floating like was if your character was like, say their sanity was low, or like if there was some sort of scare value, if that value was high, they would like unintentionally like scream or make noises or something that would potentially give you away in a scenario where you want to be hidden. That would actually be fun in practice. Like it might just be really annoying. what am I looking for here? Okay. We're gonna make this really high value. So that's the force vector. So it's not working correctly. What should be happening is when I interact with the door and I move my mouse up, that blue line should be pointing towards where I'm looking. Do I need to... Okay, so now it's in the right direction. Is the force just not strong enough still? Oh, that works. The force is just fucking insane. Yeah, I think a fear system could be really cool. I was even thinking about like crazy behaviors. Like imagine you're like running from something and you have this fear system and like say you're super fearful and maybe your character in that state will like start doing the same pathfinding that AI will do, and it will randomly like your character will sort of take control of itself at times and try to steer itself away from the thing that you're running from and not necessarily let you influence the input at certain times, or like you have to fight that input. Like it could either be a really cool mechanic or make the game absolutely unplayable. That's kind of why like I don't know if I want to implement it or not, and when I do test it I don't really know where to begin. But what is this in? Is this like in grams? So if I do like 10,000, would that be putting 10 kilos of force on? It's not even moving. Changes menu buttons to say weird stuff, yeah. There was another game, wasn't it? Like, I think it was The Forest, wasn't it? Where you could like slowly go insane and you would hallucinate enemies that like you couldn't kill. Was that The Forest or a different game? I can't remember. Okay, so this system works. Yeah, this works, and tick is only run when you're adding force. You technically don't even need these open and closed rotations anymore. Really, the only value you need is the force vector. And then there should be a boolean for whether the door is latched or not. Actually, you know what? You might still want the closed rotation. I have to think about how I want to do this. I need to think about how I want to handle the latching of the door. I have to figure out if I should be running the tick component even in the actor. Or sorry, the tick in the actor. Or if I should just be creating some sort of override of the physics constraint, like a child class of that, and just do my logic in there. I don't know. I feel like I should do it in the actor. Why does this say unstable? My bitrate is too high. Whoops. I thought Twitch worked with 6,000 bitrate. Maybe not. Anyways. I should have the, on the deactivate, disable input with the player controller. And this won't be there anymore. Oh, I know what I can do. Okay, I have an idea. Lock once the rotation is done. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about, like how I want to do that. I have an idea for how I can do it. That actually shouldn't go there. That should go here. So here on begin play, base rate equals static mesh rotation, and then so when the player is done interacting with the door, I'm getting the player controller. Well, I actually don't even need to get that there. I just get it here when the door is activated, and then when it's deactivated, I disable input on the actor and then set the player controller to null. I don't stop the tick, so the tick is still going now, and it's going to say that the controller's invalid. So in here, what I can do is make it so that the door goes back to its initial rotation. And then it also checks to see if it's there. So if I just have to figure out what direction the force should be added in. How do I determine that? Because that's the forward vector. I have to add the force in local rotation for sure. Actually, do I even account for that now? I should check that. I do, okay. What is like the forward vector of this door? I mean, the forward vector is that. I guess I could just define the return vector. So that would be under here. The return force. Let's try that. Why'd it crash? What did I do wrong? Line 87. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Okay, okay. See? There we go. Okay. Door to slowly close itself back if you go through it. So now I just need to add the locking mechanism. So technically, I could just do this if everything works correctly. That's a big if though. So I would go activate door, set tick enabled, set simulate physics to true. Still bounces, motherfucker. What if I change this force so it's weaker? Like much weaker. It does still close itself, it's just very slow. I think the issue is just the tolerance. then if I do this, now I can move it. Now I can't open it again because it's locked shut. And then I can unlock it. And then slam it closed again. Okay. That's the behavior I was looking for. Perfect. We'll do a tolerance of 0.25, and I could even make that a variable that's exposed in the data asset, but for now that's okay. So let me make some events for this now. So there should be a couple different events for the door. So on unlock and unlocked. And then I also need to have like an actual locking system where you'd use like keys as well. So on latched and on unlatched should probably be the name of these events. So if the tick is enabled, the door would not be getting unlatched. So that would be done there, and then here, that would be broadcasted. What if I had like your mouse sensitivity scale depending on the weight of the door? That could be cool. Door works now though, that's nice. The only thing I need to do is turn off the initial simulate physics, that way it starts latched. That's awesome. Really cool interaction. If you're, and then just run through. Holding the unlatch key, you can push through the door, and then it'll lock again when it slams closed. But you can also pull it open with your mouse, and the needs a little bit more force to it, but yeah, like that. And then I should probably have less of a closing force. Like 0.3 or something. Oh, that's cool too. I didn't even think about that behavior. You can actually hold the door in place. Now, what happens if you're in the way of the door? Oh, it still works. Cool. Okay. So I'm probably gonna call it there for today. I'll probably stream more tomorrow, maybe add the replication tomorrow, or just clean up some of the code that I did for this, but that's a good stopping point, so The door is now a physics asset, so your actual movement can influence opening and closing it, and then it also latches and unlatches. So the next thing I have to do is allow movement of the player, like walking around, influence opening and closing the door, and then add an actual locking system for like keys and stuff. But other than that, yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thanks for watching. If you're